So yeah, I just left everything behind, went to Mexico. And it was then that I had realized that the Lord wanted to reveal himself to me, right? I had this insatiable hunger to like read the Bible when I first started out Christianity. I just knew I wanted to do it for real. I knew I wanted to know the word. I knew the word, like the Bible was the foundation for like this walk. So every day I just committed to read 4 chapters a day. And I read the Bible once a year, every year for like the first 4 years. I just kept rereading the Bible, right? Cover to cover. And then the 5th time, the Lord was like, that's enough. That's enough. We need to find a different way in order to be able to reveal scripture to you. After the first year, I started journaling and reflecting on what I read. And then I realized that the Lord was talking to me, because it was just, I was writing words that were just, I didn't speak like that. And I was saying, like, there was these lofty concepts there that were way too much for just little Jennifer. But when I went to Mexico, like years later, the Lord really started showing me things in a different way. He would actually speak to me in a way in which I can hear. He would wake me up in the morning. I would get up and I realized that it was the same time every single morning, like every single morning. So I was like, all right, this is the Lord. I guess he wanted me to wake up at 4 a.m. All right. He also just started taking me through different exercises, teaching me scripture, training me up, healing me, counseling me. Like, it was wild. He had me go through all these different exercises. It was such a beautiful thing. And I really had my relationship with the Lord like that. I ended up coming back and then, tried to get my life right back on track again. And it was like I had never left. Well, fast forward a little bit later down the line, the Lord started taking me through a process, right? I just hit rock bottom in my life. It was like, bam. And I said, you know what? God, I'm going to go after you with everything I got. I'm going to put all this stuff aside. And I just started chasing the Lord. I got tired of like sin cycles. I got tired of, all of this stuff that I was going through in my life. It was just heavy and dark. And I was like, you know what? I got to figure this thing out. I don't know what all this is about. I just know that there's something different about me than everybody else. There's just something that is going on with me that nobody can explain to me. Like, I know I'm meant for something big. I know all of this is for a reason. I got to figure out what the heck is going on in my life. Like, I no longer wanted the world. I no longer cared about it, because I had already done so much and experienced so much in my life, which I believe the Lord allowed me to do. And he told me later on in life that he allowed me to experience all of life, because he knew that one day he would ask me for it all. And I just started going after him with everything I got, with everything I had. And with that being said, man, the Lord took that, and hour after hour after hour, the Lord just poured into me. I remember he told me to apply for a job that was going to be a graveyard shift, and told me like a couple of months in advance that I needed to prepare for it. And people were asking me questions like, are they going to call you back? And I was like, the Lord told me that this was a job he wanted me to take, so I'm not worried about it at all. But he started telling me to prepare for it 2 months in advance. So I would wake up at 10 o'clock at night, and the Lord would just guide me and lead me. And I would, at 5 o'clock in the morning, still be in devotion time with the Lord. Like, he was just really working. And I did this for like months. And finally, I got the job. I worked there for 7 days. The Lord said, that's the period of completion. You're done. It's time for you to quit. And I realized he just used that job to be able to spend all that time with me, because I would have never even known to spend hours and hours and hours like that with the Lord. But he was training me. He was teaching me. He, would have me go and read scripture and then teach me on scripture. I remember there was like one verse, the life and death rest on the tongue. I can't remember verbatim. And he just talked to me for about 2 hours on that, just explaining what that meant. What was that, that I needed to apply to my life. He would have me go get books on Amazon and go read a chapter and then, teach me on that chapter. He would have me do various exercises to be able to teach me and train me. It was just wild. It was all day. And then there was a time where he was like, okay, I'm sending you through a process in which it's going to get real intense. It's going to get really heavy. And it's going to be for 3 months, right? And it was the tail end of a pregnancy process that he was talking to me about, right? In the spirit. But he said it's going to be really intense. And this was the Lord's boot camp, right? That he called it. And he was just teaching me and training me about spiritual warfare, about my thought life, about all of that. Once when I finished, Satan spoke to me, and I don't know how I realized it was Satan, but it was. And he, gave me the offer, and the Lord was like, you got to let him give you the offer, right? Like Jesus was tempted in the wilderness. You got to be tempted. Not the first time, or it was the first time Satan talked to me, but it wasn't the last. Then after that, some time went by. Me and my ex-husband of 22 years, we were just having more and more issues. And the Lord was like, just dealing with me. And finally, I was like, I asked to be released from that marriage. I went through change him, change me, to release me. And I realized that the Lord had a bigger plan for me. And it was all a part of it. He wanted me to go away with him. And I did. He told me one day just to leave everything. My mom was in the emergency room. I was taking care of her again. And they were trying to figure out what to do about a long-term nursing home. But they were struggling to find. And he said, I want you to go. Leave her there. I had a 20 and 22-year-old in college and working. He said, go. They were still living with me and my ex at the time. He's had me leave jobs. He's had me just leave everything and just go. I didn't have any money on me. I didn't have anything. And I left. Then a couple of months later, he told me to go back. It was just wild. And he had to show me why it would never work. I realized that me not being in purpose, me not being in relationship with the Lord and following him, I would never be happy. I would never be fulfilled. And that would lead me into depression and in the states that weren't healthy for me or anybody else. Like life wouldn't have worked without him unless I followed him. So I had to. And I did. I was homeless for 2 weeks. Because he told me to leave again after showing me why it would never work. And I was sleeping in my car on the side of the road for like 2 weeks. Then he told me to leave the city and go to another city. And I went to another city. And month after month after month after month after month, he's been just working with me, dealing with me, growing me, developing me. And that's just where I am. So I don't have anything to prove. I don't have anything that I have to do. I don't have anything that I have to build for myself. I've done it. Today I just live for God. It's all that matters. And that's my story. Talk soon.